Hello.
Testing, testing. Yep. All right, we'll be starting shortly. We'll just give it probably just another minute or so, but if people
Hello.
could take a seat if they're still standing, that would be fantastic. Okie dokie. I think we will get going because we've only got 1 hour and we've got a lot to discuss, and we hope we get to discuss a lot from you. Now, just to introduce myself, I'm Dale Roberts. I'm the Manager of Strategic Communications from APNIC, and welcome to the session, Diversity as Critical Infrastructure for the Internet Networking Community, ? So this is going to be a panel discussion, but we do want to hear from you, and we have some dedicated time towards the end of the session for questions or comments as well. So please, we definitely want to hear from people. So do come up the mic at the end of the session. Now, let me introduce our panelists, the 5 people sitting next to me here. We are joined by Leslie, Chief Technical Officer and Internet Integrity Program Director at Global Cyber Alliance, and one of our keynotes earlier in the week. We're also joined by Champika, Technical Engagement Director at Asia Pacific at ICANN, and Saima Nisar, lecturer from Xiamen University, Malaysia, one of our policy fellows as well, I believe. Yes. And joining us remotely is Associate Professor Pradeep Thomas from the University of Queensland. Welcome, Pradeep.
Hello.
So please give them a warm welcome. Okay, so I'm going to have a few questions individually for each one of our panelists. And now, Leslie, I wanted to start with you. We've described diversity as critical infrastructure for this session, but there might be some who would disagree with that. From your experience, is it that important in creating a more secure and stable internet?
So we know that diversity is important in actual infrastructure, that monocultures are bad, that having you have increased exposure if you have all of your equipment is all the same, exactly the same release, et cetera, even though it seems easier to manage. And I think the same thing is very much true in terms of communities and personnel. Having a monoculture of in a discussion is not helpful because you just circle through all of the same discussion points and you can never find creative solutions to existing problems, let alone new problems. So yes, I argue diversity is very much imperative for the community.
Glad to hear being a panelist on this session. And now, Champika, you've been working in training and engagement across the region for decades. We're talking about this last night at the social. What improvements within diversity and inclusion have you seen over those years, and where do you think there could be more improvement?
Yeah, thanks. So from, say, this community's perspective, of course, as you said, I've been involved, I think probably for about 25 years now in the APNIC community, doing the capacity building and training. So if I compare, say, during very early days, of course, the reachability was quite less, and there were a lot of challenges. For example, even from training and capacity building point of view, we just started with a single training course just to tell the community, how to request the IP addresses, and then, filling the forms and trying to teach the policies. That's how it all started. So getting that diverse community, getting engaged to this whole process, the participation, it has taken a while, a lot of challenges. So I would think that over the years, there have been a lot of improvements, enhancements, For example, we have very early days, there were no sort of remote participation options, virtual sessions and things like that. So that's why we were facing a lot of challenges those days. But now over the years, we have been able to get a lot of diverse communities into the participation process. So I think I believe that we have achieved quite a lot over the years, and also now, especially when it comes to the different communities. So we have been able to uh, do the fellowship program. Very early days, there were no fellowship programs, but then later on, the fellowships were introduced, and also a lot of these communities have been able to benefit through the fellowship program as well. So there have been a lot of work over the years, and technical capacity building workshops, and providing more hands-on type of training activities and things like that. So just to summarize, I think over the years we have been able to do quite a lot, and now I see a lot of communities, they have been able to benefit. Yeah.
Obviously, it's come a long way in the last couple of decades, but we obviously still have a bit of work to do. And I'd like to turn to one of our younger panelists. I'd like to turn to you, Saima. From your own work and your experience as a fellow here at APNIC 60, what barriers do you think could be keeping people out of communities or engagement with APNIC?
Hi, everyone. Saima here. Yeah, I want to share this because before, when I was a fellow here, I had no idea about any organization like APNIC, APIIGF, ICANN, even though I was doing PhD. So now I feel very embarrassed. And now I'm a lecturer, so I try to engage my student in this field. I try to engage my students to come to the APNIC. What barriers I have found that they don't have any knowledge regarding this during their studies, especially when they are in the universities. They don't have any capacity building program when they were studying there. They don't have any knowledge. And actually, I'm from Pakistan, so you can understand we have some sort of very conservative families as well. When we see an organization, they are offering everything for free, sometimes it click in their mind, might be there is some problem. This is one another factor I noticed recently. I try to bring some fellows from my own country, but from rural areas. So they were not sure, is it really legitimate? We have to realize that it is real or not. So this is one barrier, which I don't think so many people think about it. And secondly, yes, university students, now they have AI, they have technology in their hand, but they don't use it properly. They use it for entertainment purpose. They don't use it to search the opportunities. They rely on the opportunities should come to them. They don't search for that. Now I have few fellows from youth, especially from the university, final year student. Only those students who have their teachers or their lecturers from these organization association, only these students know about that, not the other students. Like I'm from Malaysia, I'm working in Malaysia. Only one university have connection with the API. So only the one university students are in the API, not from the other university. And one more misconception among the student, I have found that when I share the opportunities with my student, he didn't apply. And after the opportunity missed, I asked him, why you are not applying for these opportunities? He said that I have bad GPA. So they thought maybe our GPAs are affecting. That's why they are not applying these opportunities. So these are just very small barriers which we can avoid. They are not the big things, but when we don't have awareness, we don't know what we do.
Thank you. And I think working out what actions we can take away from today will be really important. So, thank you for your insights there. And we will be talking about actions later on. I want to turn to Pradeep now in Brisbane. Now, we're obviously talking about the APNIC and internet communities in the region here. But I guess these challenges, they're not unique to APNIC, are they?
Absolutely. I think, can you hear me?
Yes. Yes, we can.
Good. Okay. Absolutely. I think the challenges facing APNIC when it comes to issues such as diversity and participation are, I think, not unique to APNIC alone. I think these are faced by organizations such as universities throughout the world. As universities have become, at least in principle, inclusive, they've been forced to deal with the practice of inclusivity, and that's of course a different thing altogether. Easier said than done. And basically in the university structures, incumbency tends to act as an obstacle to real inclusivity. In the case of universities in the West, it's mainly senior academic and administrative staff who are often, who hold the levers of power, right? And many of them are well-meaning, but they do not know how to embrace and operationalize inclusivity. So their words often communicate what I would call unwitting bias, because they're not aware of other types of reasoning or admit to their own entitlement that has become second nature to them. So these are people who have always spoken out and contributed to a discussion or decision in the context of rules that explicitly favor the best ideas and the most persuasive communication of these ideas. So invariably, these rules favor those who are well versed in debate and discussion, those for whom English is their first language, and who have command over the English language, right? So these are issues, and of course, the issue of participation becomes acute in meeting situations such as this that are explicitly multicultural, and in which the majority of people come from a background where English is their second or third language. So it is natural for people, especially in some Asian cultures, to only speak when they're invited to speak or to defer to authority or elders and things like that, right? In such circumstances, I think a slide with ground rules that explicitly favors participation should, I think, precede the meeting discussion. So that's just a way forward in some way. So I'll leave it at that for the moment.
Yeah, no, language is a massive thing, particularly for our community. And I don't think it's just our community, obviously, that face that. Now, more broadly, I think this has been one of the kind of questions that was put in the panel for the questions here, is that what kind of voices or perspectives are we missing in our community today? So who are we actually missing out on engaging within our community? And I'd like to hear from all panelists on this one, but Leslie, I'll start with you.
Sure, thanks. It's pretty hard to say who's missing because you look around the room and they're not there. So how to identify them? So I would say that generally speaking, we know that we're missing people of all shapes and sizes, and also people who have very different uses for the internet and networking resources. And using them in ways that maybe we haven't thought about so much, or who live in contexts where maybe it's not the norm for us. I mean, personally speaking, my last mile at home is 13 over the air because of where I live. Whereas a lot of networking winds up discussing, assuming that you've got gig Ethernet to your house, at least in the US, not truth. So how to find the people who are really increasingly, who's the network is for everyone. So how to find the people who are not engaged and make it compelling for them. And so to show my hand a little bit there, the kinds of things that I think are necessary to draw more people into talking about the internet and its resources, I think you have to find ways to not just say, hey, come and play with us, but rather encourage people and show them how they can really engage and make a difference. If you had told me 30 years ago that my career would largely be about, talking to people or standing up and having opinions on things or working through processes and reading lots of documents, I think I might have just gone back to bed and turned off the light. But rather, what drew me into this space was the reality that my first full-time job was working for the people who created the first search engine for the internet. And it was like, wow, this stuff is really cool and exciting, and you can engage and make a difference. So what's the analog for that today for young people, for others, to make them understand that engaging here is not just about participating in panels and having discussions like that, but really making a difference?
Well, Chambika, I might throw to you because obviously you must have seen a bit over time. How have you managed in the past to get people in, and who do you think we're missing at this point to get more engagement?
Yeah, actually, thinking about different communities, of course, we do see a lot of technical community in most of these sessions, whether it's this type of meetings or whether it is training or things like that. But I still see probably we should go even beyond the technical communities as well. Uh, so when I say, even when we think of technical communities, we still focus around the urban cities or urban areas. We could still go into more rural communities. There could be some indigenous communities who may actually benefit out of this work. And also, actually, I would think, even we should explore different sectors. For example, there are sectors that has impact on human lives. For example, maybe the healthcare sector, or maybe, for example, environment, things like that. And also the other important thing is, I think, even the communities who are differently able communities, I think, we should also have some um, focus on that part of the communities as well. Because sometimes, I see that we don't see much of differently able communities in these sort of events. I could give one example, actually. When I was doing a workshop in one of the uh, countries, we had a blind person actually who came to one of the workshops, and in fact, he was with a guide dog and so on. And I was amazed that, end of the workshop, we had this test and a sort of a, assessment. And he was the one who actually completed, he got the best results out of the whole workshop. And so I was quite amazed. So if we give that opportunity and have that inclusiveness, I would think that that would benefit a lot of other communities as well. Yeah.
In my opinion, end user. Because in the end, who is the one who is going to use this internet? Sometimes you came as an engineer, but in the end, you are also an end user. So you are going to use this one. And obviously the youth, because we are going towards to the improvement. We are going towards to the AI. We are going towards to the more technology. And they are the tech-savvy generation. So their opinions, their involvement is most necessary. But after that, the most critical for me, like we fellows, we came here, we get all the information, we spend some time, and then we don't interact here. This is the actually waste of resources as well, because we are learning everything, but we are not giving back. We are not involving. We are not participating. That's the one we are missing here the most, because now you have the knowledge, you know the resources, you know how to participate, but then you are not participating. That's the one voice we are missing the most here. Thank you.
And Pradeep, I guess these are kind of themes that come up a lot, I think, inclusion, and we do hear them quite consistently. Is there any surprises there for you at all?
No surprises. I don't know what your membership is like, but in terms of inclusivity, I mean, I think the question really is, I mean, where does, how is kind of APNIC represented from different parts of, say, the Asia Pacific region? I mean, like for example, in South Asia, which is very hierarchical, there's caste and class and all these kinds of differences, gender, all these kinds of divides. Does APNIC take those types of markers of identity seriously? Are there people belonging to all these different communities in APNIC? Are they represented? Those types of issues, right? And if there aren't enough people who are technically qualified, are there possibilities for EPNIC to kind of provide those, strengthen their capacities so people who are marginalized? Yeah, those types of issues that are there. I mean, I think these are issues that impact on all sorts of organizations, right? Especially the international organizations like yours and regional ones like yours. Yeah. So I'll leave it at that.
I think obviously younger people, the next generation sort of has come up a little bit here, and it does come up so often. And I think there's one thing that exists, I think, in the community where we obviously have so many long-time contributors to the community. So how do we balance having and honoring those long-time contributors while creating space for new ones? So how do we let this in the next generation come through while not forgetting where we've come from as well? Because I think that is something that is a consistent thing that comes up. And I know we just spoke to you, Pradeep, but I might come back to you because it feels like in academia that must exist as well in terms of the staff there, researchers, is there this issue as well about the making space for the newcomers coming through?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, this is why I said, the incumbency is an issue in many organizations, right? People who've been there for long enough, who know the rules and, who speak up all the time, these kinds of things, right? And the question is not to kind of exclude them, but to ensure that everyone's voices are heard, right? And that's the key thing, right? That voices are heard. And the question then is, how do you ensure that those voices are heard? And I would think that one way forward would be to have really effective chairpersons, right? When there's a discussion or conversation, and a chairperson who listens to somebody who's dominating the session in some ways, and then say, look, that is a great idea, although I'm sure there are others who would like to contribute to this discussion. Let me give an opportunity to all those who have not spoken, kind of thing, right? So as a way in which you get other people to also get involved in the discussion, kind of stuff. So yeah, there are ways around this, but of course, in many of these settings, these things have taken years to evolve, right? And I think at this moment in time, we are in a much better place. There's a lot more inclusivity and diversity in the university system. But I think small things like having a good chair, or also meetings that can begin with a statement of ground rules that explicitly favors participation. All those things can make a difference, I think.
Does anyone want to take that up as well? And plus, there's the online spaces as well as the in-person too. Actually, I think we need to consider. But Leslie, please.
Yeah, I grabbed the mic because I agree completely that that it is important to ensure that new voices are heard, because that's how you will finally solve some of those old problems that, the people who've been around for a long time, like myself, just can't see beyond the things we've already tried 16 times before. But and I agree 100% that good sharing is a large part of it, but that does get a little harder in a room like this one, where you've got, tens of people. And I don't think we're going to call on every single person to share their thoughts, and not every single person wants to. But
True.
something that came up in a very different, in another context, was people who sit in meetings like this and have thoughts and just don't feel that they can bring them to the microphone, or don't feel it's the right time or whatever. But then they'll make a comment to their neighbors they're walking out the door, well, I really thought that such and such and such and such. And that would have been a great thing to share. So I wonder if there aren't ways to, in the middle of a meeting, to actually have literally breakout sessions, smaller groups where you might just chat, and then an idea that gets some kind of momentum will actually filter its way to the top when the group reports out. So I think that's part of chairing. I think there are things that can be done to help bridge the gap.
Yeah, Chobi.
Yeah, to add to that, actually, I also think actually the youth participation is something very important, and we should provide that platform, especially giving them that comfort zone is also quite important, I think, especially when they come to a big meeting like that, and also when they see all these other experts around. So sometimes they could be they may not be feeling comfortable even. So I mean, I could again, give an example. During even this meeting the other day during the social, I opted to sit with some of the fellows on the table, and I was talking to some of the fellows, and so we shared a lot of uh, things and about the meetings and so on, and they found that it was very useful. In fact, I saw some of the fellows even they were posting in social media about some of the discussions we had. So I think giving that comfort zone for newcomers, new fellows, and so on, I think that this will add, and also that will encourage them to contribute more, especially if they get more confidence. Yeah.
I agree with my both panelists. I have faced this issue, and I now see in my other fellows, we don't come to the mic. We have so much good ideas and we share with our friends, but we don't come to the mic. This is the one thing we need: confidence. maybe we are saying something wrong, that's fine. At least we should speak our mind. We have mentors here, they can guide us, they can help us. But we really need to first speak. If we don't speak, nobody going to understand what we are thinking, what we want to do. So this is the one thing. Actually, it's not a lack of confidence, but it's a fear of the spotlight maybe, or you are not getting this spotlight all your life and suddenly we are getting this. So this is the one thing. But if you overcome this, you will gonna have a lot of better things. You will gonna get more opportunities, and it will be open so many doors for you.
Just, do you think in terms of, I mean, we're talking a lot about being at the conference, I think, for a lot of this, which is a lot of where these decisions are made and a lot of the discussions happen. I'd be interested to take in terms of when we leave the conference as well, before we kind of get into the actions. Is there anything here about our online spaces at all? I mean, are they welcoming? Do they do the fellows and other people potentially feel that they can go on and speak their mind as much like on a mailing list, as much that in person, or have the same issues? Do you think it exists in both offline and online?
I think it can, but when we are all in these events like that, we participate more as compared to the offline. I have noticed this when we come to the these conferences, we are absolutely free. We connect to as many people as we can. But when we are going back, we have other duties. And when it comes to our other duties, these are not volunteer based. We are attending these events, we are participating on volunteer base. But when we have to go to do our job, we really need organizational support in that case. If you don't have organizational support, you are not able to participate because you are doing something extra. So we sometimes didn't able to do anything without that support. And we have this organizational support like APNA, but we don't have an actual support from the organization where we are working. That's the one thing we are lacking here.
Interesting. Now, actually talking about this, and we've touched on a few different actions, I think, already, because a lot of what we say here, I think we do understand, obviously, there's a lot of gaps, there's a lot of improvements that we can make, but what are some real tangible actions we can take away for an event like this? I'd really be very happy to hear from everyone, but actually I've got here, so I'm to start with you again, even though you've just spoken there, but like, what is something that APNIC could do? You said we've got support already, but like ongoing, what could APNIC do to help facilitate change?
I will start with my own experience. I came in APNIC 56. I had nothing. I know nobody in this whole community. And I'm not also from very technical background. I was not network engineer. So I got the mentorship from Sunny. He was our mentor. He was very helpful. Then we spent some time with the other members here. Slowly, I got to understand. But the one thing I didn't do, I didn't disconnected myself after the fellowship. I try myself to connect somehow to find the ways so I can put my input. I am very keen to put some input from my side. I really want to give back to that community who spent so much money on me. I really want to do that something. So then I joined the APR IGF. Then I become the fellow of APR IGF. Then I lead the drafting committee of synthesis document. I was co-chairing that. Then I went to the APEN. Then I went to the ICANN. I attended the ICANN 82. Then I again went to the APTICOD. And after seeing my engagement, I got more opportunities here. And always ethnic will be the first thing which give me the whole broader concept, broader understanding, how to open this door, how to meet the people, how to connect the people. And from that ethnic to this ethnic 60, I'm seeing so much improvement in terms of the youth and the experienced community members' contribution or connection. The team is working so much and we are connecting with all the members of the committee. We can have a chit chat. They have creating the special meet and greet session for us. And we can connect, like we had a yesterday session for newcomers. So we choose which direction we want to work. Then we meet the technical experts, people like security, internet governance. So this gives us the more opportunity to which field we are want to work. We can connect the right person in this field. These are the things are really necessary. So you can know, okay, if I need some help, I can connect this person. Even though I connected with my Paul, I didn't know him. I didn't recognize him, but T helped me to find out him. So I can connect with him. So these are the things which really helpful for you to make your own connection. And especially when you started your journey, you just finished your bachelor, you don't have any job, you need connections. They are not going to help you and give you the job on the first day. Mostly fellows, we think that even I thought that at first when I came, maybe I will get some job opportunity. I didn't get any money. I got a lot of volunteer opportunities. At that time, even one of my friend asked me, why you're doing this? Are they paying you something? Even up till now, she asked me, did they pay you something? No, they don't pay me, but they give me those opportunities which are more than that pay. I got a lot of opportunities. I got a lot of awareness. I got a lot of spotlights. Now people know me. In last APNIC conference, I have to go and introduce myself. This time people come to me and say, oh, Saima, I know you. I don't know that person, but they know me. This is just between 2 years. So this is the one thing. If you work, you will get paid by another way.
Thank you. Anyone else like to, Leslie? Leslie, you go first.
No, I very much agree with the very important aspect of how do you bring people in and make sure you don't just say, well, now you're at the conference, hope it works out. That's not unique to the APNIC conference either. I mean, I remember encountering that in the IETF, but my approach is sort of put my eyes on the horizon, and I would like to be sure that in 20 years, 30 years, 50 years, that address policy is still being developed by an open policy process and collaboration amongst the technical community and everybody implicated in the outcomes. And so what do we need to do in order to make sure that that's true? And I think a large part of that is to, again, come back to making sure that it matters to people, that people understand their connection to it. You found a way of connecting with it by literally connecting. But are there other things that can draw people in to understand that it isn't just something that happens over there that other people take care of? It's your internet and your address policies, and you can be part of talking about it. So how do we make it matter?
Yeah, I agree with both those points as well. Especially, we can't just take one event by one event. I think we have to think as a whole and think ahead. So, I mean, because if someone might come this time, but then after that we might lose the person. So it has to be a continuous process. Also, we have to really understand, I think, the problems. Say if we can't get the people to the event, for example, even if you consider a single event. But we have to understand what sort of problems are there. Say, for example, let's think about, say in this case, this meeting. If someone has to come from all the ways from a Pacific island, it can take probably 2 days to come here and then go back another 2 days. So you would be spending like maybe 1 week for traveling and then another week for the conference, or 2 weeks of your time coming here. So can a small Pacific island could afford one of their engineers 2 weeks away from this event? So things like that. So can we then go to that area, or can we do something for them in that part of the world? These are the things probably we have to think. And also, I think over the period of time, we should also collect the statistics, the data, the measurements, because this is also something important. Because if we have, say, for the last 10 years, if we can gather the participation from different places, different regions, and so on, and if we can, even now with the AI facilities and all that, if we can feed into an AI system so that you can do quite a lot of things, you can help them out, I believe. So.
Before we go to Preeti, I think do we have a question or comment already? I mean, this is before time or question T, but we'll allow it.
Sorry.
No, it's good. Thank you.
Just a couple of comments because we were talking about after Simon's comment. So Barker Manuel has commented, true, agree with Simon. It is not pay. It is about the community, internet world, and the networks we engage in during our whole experience. And Dhruv Dodi, Simon's point is very important. At present, our fellowship program is structured around single events. A more effective approach would be to organize it around tracks, for example, IG, policy, network operations, software and open source and research. Fellows could be supported on a multi-year journey, attending several related events and receiving sustained investment rather than just one-off opportunity. This would also address the concerns that a single event may not deliver sufficient value for the resources we commit.
Any follow-up comments at all, Simon, from that?
I would say thank you to understand and support my comments. Yeah, I think we all need to think about it, because as a youth, we are the one who's going to take this responsibility from our seniors. So we have to be very thoughtful and we have to be very serious about that. Not just come and enjoy. Do enjoy it. You should enjoy it. But after learning something, do implement. If you can't come to this conference, not necessarily we have to attend every conference, as you said. But at least we should do something in our own community. As I told you, I'm not living in my own community. I'm from Pakistan. I'm living in Malaysia, so I cannot be participate in both because of some restrictions. I cannot participate directly to the Malaysia. I cannot go back to Pakistan. So what I did regional participation. I joined the regional organizations. I want to do something, I found the way. So definitely, if you want to do something, you will definitely find the way.
I think there's some really good comments there. I think something we always have to consider is that, you know, we do have some finite resources. Like obviously with APNIC, there's only going to go so far, and I think the fellowship program is fantastic. But we do have to think beyond single event, but whether or not that is just more fellowships, that may be, there's going to be at some level, the investment has to, I guess, meet the community demand. So does the community care enough about this for us as APNIC, the organisation, to invest more in it, I mean, over a longer period of time? That's something that we have to consider. I mean, that's not my thing to answer, but just something to throw out there. And I'm pretty just interested in your thoughts from, I guess, what you've heard so far from the panelists in those comments.
Yeah, I think you just said it, you know.
I think we've lost audio.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can now. Thank you.
So you just said it. I think, you know, the question is, you know, I mean, the issue is about intentionally investing in the spaces and places that that can enhance kind of participation, right? And I think APNIC is already doing that. You have your fellows program. You're building capacities in different ways. But the question is, you know, if you want voices to be heard and diverse voices to be heard, how do you kind of nurture those voices, right? How can you kind of create those spaces? Could it be, you know, can you invest in specific programs that really focus on youth, right, in APNIC, and their needs, right, and those kinds of things, right? But again, that will probably be an issue. You know, it's an issue of investments, and and at the end of the day, it's about, you know, how much you can spare for those types of investments. But if you really want inclusivity and diversity, I think, you know, those kinds of things are probably required. So.
And I think that is something where we do talk at the conference. We have 2 conferences a year. There's a lot of ideas with it. Fellows is such an important part of it, but I think it is between those times as well is just as important as when we get into a room and when we get together as well. Before we get sort of go into more, I wouldn't mind to see if we have any questions or comments from the audience. I see a lot of people here who are maybe from the more established guard, as well as some of the younger people. Is there any questions or comments? We have a couple of people coming down. Fantastic. And if you could just say your name and where you're from before your question or comment.
My name is Alvin Kwan. I think I'm speaking on behalf of my current role in the AP Star co-chair. So we had a conversation within AP Star talking about capacity building. So a couple of comments I want to express. As a whole, in the APAC region, within all these internet organizations, I think the capacity building programs are actually attracting hundreds of attendees at the moment every year. So there are a couple of problems that I would like to express. First of all, if you look into I think we're not doing a really good job in terms of reaching out to the community as well. I think one of the panelists mentioned that we are solving real world problems. Yes, we are, but we are really bad in telling the world that we are solving a real world problem. It's almost as if we're reluctant to tell people that we are solving real world problems. So, for example, if we are doing this, speaking on the ICANN side, if we are doing DNS abuse as a policy development, have we actually go into banking association conferences and telling the banking sector that this is something that we are helping them to solve? If we do that, we are going to attract a lot more attention, but we're not. Are we having a really robust, systematic, strategic alliance with different universities to actually recruit newcomers in the conferences, in the community every year? I think we're doing something, but not really systematically as well. Now, the second point is that without that, we are still attracting hundreds of different new people, but we are not really good in retaining them as well. And we can see the evidence that every year we are having the same people here. Now, the problem then is how do we actually build career path for the newcomers who actually came and learn about the industry and learn about IG and stuff like that. There's no systematic career path development for these people as well. And my third point is that specifically for APNIC, we're a technical community, and for technical community, most people are introverts. So in a setting like this, with an open mic, it is extremely intimidating. So, for example, if we have something like a SIG that is talking about, emerging issues and stuff like that, we are not only having an open mic, but having a discussion group through WhatsApp or whatever newer technology. That might make it easier for people to express as well. And one of the other issue about the participation in the discussion is that for people who got sponsored to came here in a junior position, they are not in the position to go into an open mic to express an opinion as well. Just from an organization structure perspective, they're not at that level. So you're left with those who are experienced enough, old enough, and in the position to represent the organization to express the view. So these are the 3 points that I want to kind of bring out to the panelists. Thank you.
No, thank you so much. Does anyone have any comments in response to those excellent points?
I want to say something. As you said, that juniors have no authority to say on the behalf of their company, but they can speak their own mind. They can give their own opinion. That's why we have open mic. No need to, normally when you come, you specifically mention that I'm talking about on my own capacity. That's the one thing. So I think you can speak on your mind, whatever you want. And the secondly, you mentioned about the academy. I agree on that. Last Apricot, I personally bring few students to the Apricot, and they are trying to be active in the community, but they are not retaining. So for the sake of retaining, I think we shouldn't have any project like that. After the fellowship, this will report back. They provide some sort of documentation. As a fellow, we have to write down or do some project. So we show our commitment to the community, and as well, if we perform something, then we will going to be more interested. Right now, we are just learning. We are not giving back anything in terms of knowledge. But if, let's say, for example, we have to do a project or we have to provide some written documentation, then we have to work on that. By just doing the LinkedIn or Facebook status and point out few points, it's not enough. And I'm going to forget it in 1 month. But if I'm going to write down it as in report, as in blog, whatever the thing is, I will remember it forever. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I can add to that point as well. I mean, it is totally understandable that lot of participants, there are quiet participants. They may not come to the mic, or they may not be able to speak straight away. So this is where actually I think there has to be some sort of mentorship, right? So this should continue. And so it's not just once, maybe twice. I mean, there has to be some sort of continuation of that mentorship. And then I think after certain period of time, I'm sure that they will be able to actually expose themselves and be familiar with the environment, I believe. Yeah.
All right, I might take the next question comment.
So Terry Switzer, I identify as male, pale and stale. And I'm actually quite pleased to be in a room where I'm actually a minority for once, because normally in technical events, I'm the majority share of the room. So thank you, ladies and gentlemen, and others for that. My previous person might basically just said everything I wanted to say, plus some more. So I thought I'd just leave you with the comment about the introverts. I've got a facilitation technique which absolutely destroys reluctance to speak, in these sort of places. You just ask them, what do you want to say? And they go, oh, I don't have anything to say. Well, if you had something to say, what would it be? And then they'll come up with something pretty quickly for you. But yes, thank you for the previous person, Mike, for doing all my hard work for me anyway. So thank you.
No, thanks, Terry. Just any more questions? I mean, you just heard Terry there. If you have something to say, what would it be? Fantastic. Thanks. Come up.
My name is Bikram. I'm from Nepal. So from the perspective from, developing and South Asia, it's more than 2 billion population, I mean, tentatively. So, and in the remote area, there are, in Nepal, we have almost 120 plus languages. So just for example, my grandmother, she don't speak even Nepali language. Our national language is Nepali, so she don't speak Nepali. Whenever she wants to talk with his son in Russia, just had a Viber call and just she talks with his native language. Our native language is Newari. So that's, in a remote and in a rural areas, it's still, unconnected. And the diversified need to be addressed in terms of from the language side, and even the as we discussed that those who can afford they do have an access to internet. They don't if the rural area they don't have an internet access, that there is a huge gap and there is a digital divide. So in terms of language also, we have to, because if that need to be addressed, like, ICANN, ethnic, and ISOC, they have been providing. And even we are, from Nepal, we have connected to the Everest base camp till that's the Everest community network, because of Internet Society have, provided the support, and we are able to be there. So that's how we have to invest more on diversify. Thank you.
No, thank you very much. Now, we're getting a not shorter time, but I think I'd love to hear from all the panelists sort of one last time to sort of wrap up, because we have gotten through a lot of different topics and themes. And I think with diversity and inclusion, it covers so many, from language to regional to all sorts of different parts, technical knowledge, of gender, of disability, so many different areas we can go to. So I'd like to get each one of the panelists maybe to give a final thought and maybe a final action, whether that's for the community or whether that's for APNIC or both. And Pradeep, I'd like to start with you.
I mean, there have been some great ideas that have been, that have come up for the last couple of minutes. I think one is, of course, mentorship. That is so, important, especially in the context of the younger generation involved in technical work in APNIC, right? And that's really important. But the other issues, of course, is of ensuring that you've got good chairpersons, when it comes to meetings and discussions, who people who kind of implicitly understand the virtues of diversity and inclusivity, right? That is, I think, absolutely critical because, given the fact that, it's pretty evident from this setting as well that you have lots of people for whom English is not their first language. You need to have, people with some sensitivity, right? So they can understand, where people are coming from and give them time to express themselves as well, right? Those are fundamentally important. At the same time, I think, you don't want to be in a situation where, there's a cacophony of voices, right? That you get drowned out, right? So I think managing voices is also important because at the end of the day, you really want to move beyond a mere talk shop. And so I think, I think to invest in that, in that kind of capacity building, investing in chairs that make a difference, those kinds of things, I think, are important as you go forward. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you, Pradeep. Leslie.
So I started by saying that monocultures are bad in infrastructure and monocultures are bad in communities. And to round that out a little bit, the internet works not because there was a single model for every network that every network builds, but rather the definition of how to interoperate was standardized. And so every network on the globe is a unique snowflake, and together they create the internet. I think that in focusing on bringing in more voices and to Pradeep's point about not creating a cacophony, an important piece is to remember how we interoperate ourselves, right? And right now we've been talking about standing up at mic lines, sharing opinions, and speaking in languages, but keep your eye on the prize and what are we trying to achieve as a community? What are the things that we need to do to interact, and how can we standardize that in a way that we can achieve it, whether we're, old people that have been around for too long, stale, I guess was the term of art that Terry shared, or young people who are trying to figure out what the world is going to be for them. But so that we're all moving the work forward, because that's in fact what this is about. What are our terms of interoperability?
Shabiku?
Yeah. Now, if you look at the bigger picture, let's say from UN point of view, right? So United Nations, they have these sustainable development goals. And I think number of those goals covers the things what we discussed today, like the diversity, the inclusion, and so on, the innovation and all that. And I would personally think that this inclusion should be also be responsible inclusion, um, not just inclusion as it is, but it has to be more responsible. Things like, there has to be some proper access, the literacy, and then the security, and all that has to be included in that. So if we can achieve those goals, I think that would also help the to achieve those SDGs as well. And the other thing is, now we need to have a lot of collaboration. I know that, of course, from ICANN's point of view, we have a lot of good collaboration with APNIC, and we do go to various, capacity building events together. We do the things together and so on. But I think we need much more collaboration as well, especially with the international organizations and other bodies. Rather than we do the things silos, I think have that collaboration would also add some more value.
Just one quick question I might just quickly ask from that. Standards, goals, does that need to be set from the community? And how can we do that? Anyone want to take that?
I think that I think that there has to be some direction from APNIC as an organization. I think that in terms of what are the metrics and what does the community want to achieve has to be set by the community, because if the community doesn't show up, there is no effort.
And so? Final thoughts and final actions.
I think everybody need to be involved, not one thing. Because let's say if community wants something, it's not necessarily right, because we have all sort of people. And if networking means technical people wants to do something, not necessarily they understand everything, what the community want, what the end user want. So we need to work together. Not one thing or one organization can set the guideline and everybody have to follow. Obviously set by somebody, but it need involve everybody. Everybody's opinion should be matter there.
Thank you very much. Well, look, I think we've reached the end of the session today. Unless there's any final comments or questions from anyone? There's been a lot of really, really interesting points made today, a lot of really interesting actions that I think we need to sort of consider from an APNIC perspective, but also the community and how we take this forward, and don't just have the same conversation again as Apricot and then APNIC again next year. So we'll see what we can do from that. But I would like to thank all our panelists, Pradeep, Saima, Leslie, and Shampika. Give a round of applause. Thank you, sir. And all the questions we got as well. Thank you.
Thank you.